introducing myself tonight. Wolfgang saw the film last year. He'll be up for a Q&A afterwards. Resisting Paradise was finished in 2003, and in keeping with EGS tradition, I'll only talk to you after the film. So, be with it.
Not in her class. So I have not been here because I have seen it before half a year ago, and it was so vivid still in my imagination. This is wonderful, amazing, daring example of a film essay with a lot of philosophy, with a lot of really important question about the artist and his responsibility in it. So I'm very glad to all the others, but you know her by now because she obviously is cast here. The radical filmmaker from New York City, Barbara Hammer.
Thank you.
I still help you with the names because of the students of the other groups.
Yes.
So please, yes.
Yes, I was interested to know how long it took you to do your research, to have the concept, do your research, and actually get your footage together, do your editing, do all your beautiful paintings and techniques, and it was such a moving film. I really want to say it got right to me.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, as well as asked me the questions about the technique, or how long it took me. It really did take a long time. I don't know if 5 years would be correct, because you gather, you start to edit, and then I was so lucky to have a residency at Harvard at the Radcliffe Institute for Advanced Study, which is the former Bunting Institute, which gave me 11 months with a studio of my own and a young Harvard undergrad to help me with research. And I edited during that time and thought that I was through. And midway through, around January, I showed a cut to my fellows, a mixture of men and women of many disciplines. And the artists were divided from the scientists, mathematicians, biologists, etc. The artists felt attacked. And so I knew that this isn't what I wanted to do with the film. I wanted the film to be unsettling, ambiguous, not with a strong point of view, so that everybody would wonder at themselves what they would do. So at that point, luckily I knew Matisse was living in Boston, Paul Matisse, and I called him up and asked for an interview. No, he wouldn't talk to me at all. But I knew then I went to New York and interviewed Rosamund Bernier, who has 17 hours of audio tape of Matisse. And she told me that the Matisses were coming from France because a member of the family had died and there was going to be a memorial in a week. So I immediately went back to Harvard, took the Harvard stationery, composed a letter, had it checked that it was correct French, and FedExed it to Matisse's granddaughter. And she emailed me back and said, yes. So the grandchildren became the supporters. They defended the old man. They said, well, what would you do, if this was your gift in life? And he was an ill man. I mean, we had all that kind of statement reinforced so that the film then was less black and white and less divisive. So that was like a late edition in February. I thought I was through, but somehow I couldn't follow the film myself when I looked at it. It was too complex, and I had to take out one resistor, and unfortunately it was a man, because I didn't want to have women resistors and men painters. That was just too gender divided and not part of my politic. But nobody ever comments on that, so I guess it wasn't an issue. But when I took this one fellow out who had a very interesting story, and he wore his resistors band while we spoke, his story went everywhere. He did so many things. He was in forced labor, he smuggled guns, he escaped from Italy by typing himself a letter of escape. You just couldn't follow where he was. He was arrested in a movie theater in Marseille in the first place. When I let him go, the film became clear. So it's just so many processes, it's hard to put a particular amount of time on it. But it was lengthy. And it was enjoyable the entire way.
Sarah?
Just to add to that question, I found the film extremely moving, and obviously visually it's absolutely exquisite. I mean, the colors, the music color is absolutely exquisite for someone who's it's like a visual painting. And I found it very touching, and in a way that I felt that there was a very strong personal, that you personally were in the film and making the film with your heart and your soul. And I was wondering, again, this is sort of the sort of continuation of the question, what was the germ of inspiration for that? I mean, was it a personal involvement?
I am both Matisse and Lisa Fitko or Marianne. I'm both a resistor and an artist. I want to stay in my studio and paint and not go out and protest the Patriot Act. Orange coat going up again. Another civil liberty taken away. As a gay lesbian, I have like 101 kinds of civil liberties that you have, but I don't have. You know, I could be on the street all the time.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't make those visual paintings, and I couldn't research a new idea and discover things for myself. So it's a personal interior conflict. I've always wanted to be a pure abstract painter. And yet I came out at the same time I started making film, which clearly was my medium, not painting, and I had tried that. And I was born into a world of discomfort and homophobia, as well as exhilaration of the 70s and people changing their lives and finding new ways to live, and you know, it's only gotten better. But that internal conflict lives in me, and so that's why you felt it. Yes, ma'am.
I thought the granddaughter was a central statement when she said, "What would you do? It depends on where you are in your life, whether you have children or whatever." And that did seem to bring all of these other voices together, because I was constantly reflecting, so sometimes it was hard to follow, because I find myself thinking about it myself. But, I forgot the rest of my question. There was one.
Maybe the question was about the form.
No.
Thank you very much for that question. Now,
About letters. If you came upon any letters in which he, it didn't surprise me so much that he painted, but across any other letters in which he intellectually,
you have it.
thought
You
about
have
his
it.
family, or what his family was going through.
He did, you know, some people don't understand that he didn't know. First he was separated from his wife.
Right.
It's said in the film that sort of swallows. You
Yeah.
may not get it. So she was living in Paris. When you're in the resistance, you don't tell your family what you're doing.
Okay, so they just.
No, because they could implicate one another. He could be hurt if she were caught.
I didn't get that he
If
didn't
she
know
could be
about
caught
his
because he
mom.
knew where she was. So he only found out when she came down, and she told him for 4 days, he tried to paint her. Significant
That's
moment,
the,
right?
and that's why I
Couldn't
didn't understand that
paint
last
her.
thing.
Why couldn't he paint her? Any ideas? Why could he not paint her?
Guilt.
Guilt. She became real. Listening to the story of the Matisse family, this dysfunctional family, this was a half-daughter. It was a daughter of his wife from a former marriage. She was treated somewhat as a slave. Remember he went to Tangier and did all those paintings? She was left to keep the house.
She was.
So, no wonder she'd never come into herself, as she did during the resistance. So suddenly you had a fully developed human being, and he was used to models and composition. That's what I read into it.
Yeah.
Read what you want. You're going to ask me about the form of the film, aren't you? It's the last time I could